I was lying under an old, rusted Chevy, the kind of work that made my back ache and my hands always smell like oil when I heard the unmistakable sound of a car sputtering to a stop right outside my garage. A sharp, panicked voice followed. "Hello? Is anyone here?" Sliding out from under the car, I wiped my hands on my already grease-stained overalls and turned to see her. She was young, clearly out of place in this part of town. Her heels clicked nervously against the concrete as she approached. "My car broke down," she said, pointing to the sleek black coupe parked haphazardly at the curb. "It didn't belong here, and neither did she." "Looks like you're in the right place," I said, keeping my voice neutral. The contrast between her polished appearance and the dingy surroundings wasn't lost on me. "Pop the hood. Let me take a look." She hesitated, glancing at her phone as though she might have somewhere better to be. "Can you fix it quickly?" "I'm on a schedule. Let me see what I'm working with first," I replied, already grabbing my tools. As I inspected the engine, it became clear she had no idea about cars. When I pointed out that the radiator was nearly dry and a few connections were loose, she bit her lip. "Can you fix it or not?" "I can fix it," I said, suppressing a grin. "But it might take a couple of hours," she groaned, pacing in those ridiculous heels. "Fine, I'll wait." Her impatience was clear, but I focused on the job. By the time I finished, it was nearly sunset, and she was leaning against the wall, scrolling on her phone. "All done," I said, wiping my hands and standing up. Her relief was obvious. "Finally, thank you. How much do I owe you?" I gave her a modest figure for the work I'd done. She blinked, then rummaged through her designer bag, pulling out a thick wad of cash. "Keep the change," she said curtly, handing me far more than I had asked for. "That's too much." I started to protest, but she was already heading for her car. "Consider it a tip," she called over her shoulder before driving off. The roar of her engine faded into the evening air. I didn't think much of it until later that night. Just as I was about to sit down with a cold beer and the game on TV, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, I was greeted by a man in a crisp suit holding an envelope. "Mr. Matthews?" "Yeah," I said wearily. "Who's asking?" He extended the envelope toward me. "I'm here on behalf of Ms. Amelia Blackwell." The name didn't ring a bell until he added, "The woman whose car you fixed earlier today." I frowned. "Is something wrong with the repair?" I told her everything should be running fine now. "It's not about the repair," he interrupted, his tone unreadable. "Ms. Blackwell would like to thank you personally. She has an unconventional way of doing that." I glanced at the envelope, my gut twisting. This didn't feel like a simple thank you. "Can I come in?" the lawyer asked. I stepped aside, letting him in. He carried himself with the confidence of someone used to walking into million-dollar boardrooms, not a rundown mechanic's house. He scanned my small living room, his gaze lingering briefly on the peeling wallpaper and second-hand furniture. "Make yourself comfortable," I said, a hint of sarcasm in my voice. He didn't sit, though. Instead, he handed me the envelope. "Ms. Blackwell instructed me to deliver this to you personally. She believes in rewarding those who go above and beyond." I opened it cautiously, my rough hands brushing against the smooth paper. Inside was a check. My eyes widened as I read the amount. $50,000. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered. "This has to be a mistake." "No mistake," he assured me. "Ms. Blackwell has her reasons." "What reasons?" I asked, suspicion creeping into my voice. "I fix her car, not her entire life." He smiled faintly. "She's a very private person, but let's just say she values acts of kindness, especially from those who expect nothing in return." I stared at the check for what felt like an eternity. 50 grand was more money than I'd ever seen in my life, let alone held in my hands. It could pay off my debts, fix up the shop, and maybe even let me dream a little bigger. But there had to be a catch. There always was. "What's the condition?" I asked, my voice wary. No condition, the lawyer replied smoothly. It's a gift, pure and simple. I didn't believe him. Not entirely. People like her didn't throw around money for no reason. Still, I nodded and slipped the check back into the envelope. If she's looking for more car repairs, I said, she knows where to find me. I said, trying to keep things light. The lawyer gave a polite nod and turned to leave. Enjoy your evening, Mr. Matthews. Take care. The next day, I was still trying to process what had happened when I got another surprise. A black SUV pulled up outside my shop, and out stepped Amelia Blackwell herself. She wasn't wearing the frazzled look from the day before. Now she was every inch the polished CEO, her confidence radiating like the sun. "Ms. Blackwell," I said, wiping my hands on a rag. "Didn't expect to see you again so soon. Call me Amelia," she said with a faint smile. "I wanted to thank you in person. Didn't your lawyer already take care of that?" I replied, trying not to let my nerves show. She laughed softly. "I suppose he did, but I believe gratitude is best expressed face-to-face." There was something in her tone, sincerity, maybe, that caught me off guard. She stepped closer, her gaze sweeping over the shop. "This is your business, for better or worse," she said. "Mostly worse these days," I replied. Her expression softened. "You're good at what you do. You could charge twice as much, and people would still come to you." "Not around here," I replied. "People don't have that kind of money." Amelia nodded thoughtfully. "What if I told you I could change that? Not just for you, but for this whole neighborhood?" I frowned. "What are you talking about?" She smiled enigmatically. "I have a proposal, but it's not something we can discuss here. Are you free for dinner tonight?" Dinner with her? I hesitated, unsure whether to feel flattered or suspicious. "I don't usually mix business with food," I said cautiously. "Then consider it a favor," she replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. "Pick me up at 8. I'll text you the address." And just like that, she was gone again, leaving me staring after her in disbelief. The rest of the day passed in a blur. By the time I pulled up outside the upscale restaurant Amelia had chosen, my nerves were frayed. My old truck looked wildly out of place among the luxury cars in the lot. Inside, Amelia was waiting at a private table, dressed to the nines and looking entirely at ease. "You clean up nicely," she said as I sat down, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "Thanks," I replied gruffly, feeling like a fish out of water. She didn't waste time with small talk. "You're probably wondering why I'm doing all this." The thought crossed my mind, I admitted. She leaned forward, her expression serious now. "I grew up in a place like this. People looked out for each other, but they didn't have much. My father was a mechanic, just like you. He taught me the value of hard work and the importance of paying it forward." I stared at her, trying to reconcile the woman in front of me with the story she was telling. "And you think handing me a check is paying it forward?" I asked. "That was just a beginning," she said. "I want to invest in you, in your shop, in your skills. Together, we could build something bigger, something that helps this whole community." Her words hung in the air, and I felt like I'd just been handed the keys to a kingdom I wasn't sure I deserved. "Invest in me?" I repeated, as if saying it out loud would help me understand. Amelia nodded. "You have talent, Marcus. And more importantly, you have integrity. Those qualities are rare. I see potential, not just in your work, but in what you could do for this community with the right support." "Why me?" I asked, still skeptical. "There are better mechanics out there, bigger shops." She held up a hand, silencing me. "I didn't choose you because you're the best mechanic in the world. I chose you because you're the kind of person who would fix a stranger's car without trying to fleece them for every penny. That's the kind of person I want to work with." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to grab the opportunity with both hands, but another part of me wondered if this was some kind of elaborate joke. "What's the catch?" I asked finally. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "No catch. Just hard work and a shared vision. If you're interested, We'll draw up the paperwork and get started. And if I'm not, I asked. Then you keep the check, she said, leaning back in her chair. No strings attached. But something tells me you won't walk away from this. I didn't walk away. Over the next few days, Amelia laid out her plan in meticulous detail. She wanted to expand my shop, bring in better equipment, and offer training programs for local kids who wanted to learn a trade. It sounded too good to be true, but the more she talked, the more I started to believe in her vision. She wasn't just throwing money at a problem. She had a clear strategy, and she wanted me to be at the heart of it. By the end of the week, I'd signed the paperwork. The transformation began almost immediately. The first thing Amelia did was bring in a team to renovate the shop. Watching them tear down the old, rusted walls and replace them with sleek new panels felt like watching my life being rebuilt piece by piece. Amelia was there every day, overseeing the project with the kind of determination that left no room for failure. You're not just fixing cars anymore, she told me one afternoon as we stood in the middle of the construction site. You're building a legacy. Her words stuck with me. For the first time in years, I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. But not everyone was happy about the changes. Some of the local mechanics saw me as a sellout, and they didn't hesitate to let me know it. You think you're better than us now. One of them sneered as he walked into the shop one day. I think I'm trying to do something different, I replied evenly. Yeah, with her money, he shot back, jerking his thumb toward Amelia, who was talking to one of the contractors across the room. I clenched my fists, but before I could respond, Amelia stepped in. Is there a problem? She asked, her tone cold enough to freeze water. The guy mumbled something under his breath and left. You don't have to fight my battles for me, I said once he was gone. I know, she replied, but I'm not going to stand by and let anyone undermine what we're building here. As the shop began to take shape, so did my life. For the first time in years, I felt like I was moving forward instead of just treading water. But with progress came new challenges. Amelia's presence in my life didn't go unnoticed, and rumors started to spread. People whispered about our relationship, speculating whether there was more to it than just business. At first, I tried to ignore it, but when one of my oldest friends confronted me about it, I couldn't hold back my frustration. You think I'm doing this for personal gain? I snapped. You think I'd put everything on the line for a paycheck? I don't know what to think, he admitted. But people are talking, and it's not just about the shop. I knew what he meant, but I wasn't about to dignify the rumors with a response. My focus was on the work, and I wasn't going to let anything distract me from that. Amelia, on the other hand, seemed unfazed by the gossip. Let them talk, she said when I brought it up one evening. People are always going to find something to complain about. Her confidence was reassuring, but it didn't make the whispers any easier to bear. Still, I threw myself into the project, determined to prove the naysayers wrong. The grand reopening of the shop was set for 3 months later. As the date approached, I found myself working longer hours than ever, pushing myself to the limit to make sure everything was perfect. Amelia was right there with me, her energy seemingly endless. You're going to make this place a beacon for the community, she said one night as we locked up. I can feel it. The day of the grand reopening arrived, buzzing with excitement and tension. The once rusty shell of my shop was now a gleaming facility with state-of-the-art tools, a waiting area that didn't feel like a hospital, and even a space for community classes. Amelia had envisioned it all. People from the neighborhood gathered outside, curious and skeptical. The ribbon-cutting ceremony felt surreal, and when Amelia handed me the giant pair of scissors, I almost laughed. This is your moment, Marcus, she said quietly, her voice steady and encouraging. I cut the ribbon to cheers and applause, but beneath the noise, I caught sight of a few familiar faces in the crowd. Those who weren't clapping, their eyes cold and full of doubt. The first few weeks were a whirlwind. Business picked up almost immediately, and the training program for local kids became an instant hit. It was amazing to see young faces light up as they learned to work with their hands, just like I had when I first discovered my passion for fixing things. But not everything was smooth sailing. Some of my old rivals in the area were getting more aggressive, spreading rumors that I'd sold out to corporate greed or that Amelia was using me as a pawn for some hidden agenda. One evening, I found the side of the shop vandalized with graffiti, "Traitor" scrawled in bold red letters. Amelia arrived just as I was scrubbing it off. Her expression hardened when she saw the damage. "Who did this?" she asked, her tone like ice. "I don't know," I admitted, "but it doesn't matter. I'll handle it." "It does matter," she said, her voice firm. "This isn't just about you anymore. This is about what we're building, and I won't let anyone tear it down." True to her word, Amelia didn't let it go. She hired a security company to monitor the property and insisted on installing cameras around the shop. "It's overkill," I argued, but she shook her head. "Marcus, when you're trying to make real change, you're going to upset people. It's not overkill, it's preparation." Her determination was unshakable, and I couldn't help but admire her for it. But as the tension grew, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were only just beginning. I started to wonder if all of this was worth it. One night, as we were locking up, Evelyn turned to me. "You're doubting yourself," she said, reading me like a book. "I'm doubting a lot of things," I admitted. "But mostly, I'm wondering why you're still here. You don't need this." She looked at me, her expression softening. "Maybe I do. My father used to tell me that the only way to make your life matter is to leave the world better than you found it. This is my way of doing that." Her words hit me harder than I expected, and for the first time, I realized how deeply personal this was for her. Things escalated a week later when one of the rival mechanics, a guy named Derek, showed up at the shop with two of his friends. "You think you're better than us now?" he spat, his voice loud enough to draw the attention of everyone inside. I stepped outside, keeping my posture relaxed, ready. "I'm not better than anyone, Derek. I'm just trying to run my business." "Your business?" he scoffed. "This isn't your business anymore. It's hers." He jabbed a finger toward the office where Evelyn was meeting with the supplier. "Watch your mouth," I said, my voice low. "Or what?" he sneered, stepping closer. Before I could respond, Evelyn appeared at the door. "Is there a problem?" she asked, her voice calm but commanding. Derek's bravado faltered for a moment, but quickly recovered. "Yeah, there's a problem. People around here don't like what you're doing." "People?" she repeated, raising an eyebrow. "Or just you?" The tension was thick, and I stepped in before things could escalate further. "We're done here," I said firmly. "If you've got something to say, Derek, you can say it to me. Leave her out of it." Derek glared at me, but eventually backed off, muttering curses under his breath as he and his friends walked away. After they left, Evelyn turned to me. "That's not going to be the last time someone tries to intimidate you." "I can handle it," I said, though I wasn't sure if I was trying to convince her or myself. "I know you can," she replied, "but you don't have to do it alone." Her words stayed with me. She wasn't just talking about the shop. She was talking about everything. As the months passed, the shop became a cornerstone of the community. We hosted free repair clinics, helped struggling families with their cars, and gave local kids a chance to learn skills that could change their lives. Evelyn's vision was coming to life, and I was proud to be a part of it. But the more successful we became, the more the whispers and resentment grew. I started to wonder if the cost of this dream was too high. The tension came to a boiling point one night when I was locking up. The streets were unusually quiet, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. As I turned toward my truck, I saw them. 3 men stepping out of the shadows, led by Derek. "Working late, huh?" Derek sneered, his voice carrying a sinister edge. "What do you want?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. "To remind you where you came from," he said, closing the distance between us. "You think you're some big shot now, with her money backing you up?" "Walk away, Derek," I warned. He laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Or what?" You going to call your fancy CEO to come save you? I clench my fists, my pulse hammering in my ears. I don't need anyone to save me, but I won't fight you either. Not here. Not now. That's what I thought, he said, his tone mocking. But as he turned to leave, he added, "This isn't over, Daniels. Not by a long shot." When I told Evelyn about the confrontation the next day, she was furious. "This has gone too far," she said, pacing back and forth in my office. "I can handle Derek," I assured her. "It's not just Derek," she countered. "It's everyone who thinks they can bully you into giving up. They don't see what we're trying to do. They just see a threat. Then let them see it," I said firmly. "I'm not giving up. Not on this shop. Not on these kids. And not on what we built." Evelyn stopped pacing and looked at me, her expression softening. "You really believe in this, don't you?" "I do," I said. "And I'm not backing down." Evelyn's determination only grew after that. She started organizing community meetings, inviting local leaders to discuss how we could improve the neighborhood together. Her passion was infectious, and soon, people who had been skeptical began to see the bigger picture. But not everyone was on board. Derek and his crew escalated their harassment, slashing tires on the cars parked outside the shop and spreading more vicious rumors. One night, they even threw a brick through the window of my house. Evelyn insisted on involving the police, but I resisted. "This is just petty stuff," I said. "We don't need to make a big deal out of it." She shook her head. "This isn't petty. This is intimidation, and I won't let them run us out of here." Her resolve was unshakable, and I knew she was right. It was only a matter of time before this all came to a head. The police were called, but I hesitated. "That'll just make things worse," I said, not sure if involving law enforcement would escalate the situation. "Doing nothing will let them think they can get away with it," Evelyn argued, her voice firm. We eventually compromised. Evelyn hired private security for both the shop and my house, and I started keeping a closer eye on everything. It felt like a temporary fix, but it was enough to keep things from spiraling out of control for now. In the meantime, the shop continued to thrive. The training program expanded, and we began partnering with local businesses to offer apprenticeships for the kids. Seeing their progress was one of the most rewarding experiences of my life. It felt like we were doing something real, something lasting. But beneath the surface, I could feel the pressure building. Derek wasn't going to give up, and I knew it was only a matter of time before something big happened. That something big came one fateful night. I was working late, finishing up a repair, when I heard the sound of breaking glass. I rushed outside and found the shop's front window shattered. Derek standing there with a crowbar in hand. "This ends now," he growled, his eyes filled with rage. I didn't have time to think. Adrenaline surged through me, and before I knew it, we were face to face. "You've been a thorn in my side for too long," Derek spat. "It's time someone put you in your place." "You don't scare me," I said, my voice steady despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. Derek swung the crowbar, but I dodged just in time. The fight that followed was chaotic, both of us grappling and trading blows until the sound of sirens pierced the air. The police arrived just in time to break up the fight. Derek was arrested, and I was left with bruises and a deep sense of exhaustion. Evelyn showed up at the station to pick me up, her concern evident in her eyes. "This has to stop," she said as we drove home. "It will," I promised. "Derek's out of the picture now. He won't bother us anymore." But even as I said the words, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was far from over. With Derek gone, things started to settle down, at least on the surface. The shop flourished, the kids thrived in their training, and the community began to rally around us. But I couldn't ignore the nagging sense of unease that lingered. I'd learned the hard way that success comes with a price, and I couldn't shake the fear that another storm was just over the horizon. Evelyn, however, remained optimistic. She poured herself into the project with unwavering dedication, her passion reigniting my own. One day, as we stood in the shop watching the kids work, she turned to me and said, "This is what it's all about, Marcus. giving people hope, a chance to build something better. Her words reminded me why I'd started this journey in the first place. It was never just about fixing cars or building a business. It was about creating something meaningful for the community, about offering a future where there had been none before. As the weeks turned into months, the shop became more than just a business. It became a symbol of resilience and hope for the entire community. Evelyn and I worked tirelessly to ensure its success, and slowly but surely, the whispers of doubt and resentment faded away. In the end, the journey wasn't just about fixing cars or building a business. It was about proving that, even in the face of adversity, change is possible. Evelyn's vision had transformed not only the shop, but also the lives of everyone it touched, including mine. Looking around at the thriving community we'd built together, I realized that the struggle had been worth it. For the first time in my life, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be,